Namaskar and welcome to our series under the rubric. With us today, a really important guest, Pravin Sawhney, who is the editor of Force magazine, has a background of having started with the Indian Army and is now perhaps one of India's most well-known defense analysts. And we are going to be discussing the question of whether we should be confronting or conciliating our two neighbors, China and Pakistan. Good, Praveen, may tell our viewers what was the kind of collaboration between China and Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, particularly the opening night.
Can I please take you back, if you allow me, to the 5th of August 2019?
Yes.
Now, this is the day that India removed 370 from Jammu and Kashmir. And after that, the next day, 6th of August, Home Minister Amit Shah announced in Parliament, now there will be two union territories instead of a state of Jammu and Kashmir. And he said that POK will be part of the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory and Aksai Chin will be part of the Ladakh Union Territory. This was not acceptable to the Chinese at all because they are in physical occupation of Aksai Chin. Therefore, once the maps came out or they were about to be made, Jay Shankar, External Affairs Minister, on the 11th of August, he travelled to China, met up with his counterpart Wang Yi and explained to him that, look, what we are doing on the map will change nothing on the ground. It will not affect the line of control, won't affect the line of actual control. But the Chinese said, no, what you are doing is cartographic aggression. We do not accept that. So it all starts from there. And how it starts is that from this date onward, because I have been a very keen observer of what's going on between India and Pakistan, and I had been writing about this also, that two changes happened. The first was at the political level, starting from President Xi Jinping down to whichever official was there of China. Whenever they spoke of Pakistan, the first thing they said was that China will support Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And alongside, the people who were keenly observing the military side, they would have realized that the exercises that used to happen between the Pakistan Air Force and the Chinese Air Force, they actually started in 2012. But after 2019, they became very advanced. So it was very clear that if there is another crisis or if there is any problem, then the Chinese will stand behind Pakistan like strong, very rock iron.
Did you imagine even then?
Yes.
That there would be Chinese commanders sitting in Pakistani control rooms and actually guiding missiles against our aircraft and guiding Chinese aircraft against our aircraft. Tell us of what happened in terms of manifesting this new Pakistan-China military relationship in a state of war vis-a-vis India.
You know, my sense is a little different. My understanding, which I have also written in my book, The Last War, that came out in 2022, is that the Pakistanis have been trained very well. And my sense is that the Pakistan Air Force, because of the good training, because of the equipment and the advanced exercises that they've done together, they are good enough to do everything on their own.
But this
where they required the Chinese help was in what we call non-kinetic capabilities, which is the most important is the space capability. That means you need to have visibility round the clock. And this was conceded by the Director General of India after the operations were done. Officer called Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, that yes, they knew what is going on. So they had total visibility, advantage that the Indian side didn't have, because it matters a lot if you know what the deployments and the dispositions are of the other side, which is why on the night of 6th, 7th May, when we did our operation and they did their counter operation, and the next day which is on the 8th of May, a senior officer of the Pakistan Air Force, Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb, he held a briefing for the international media where he said that we were ready and we had electronic identification of all the aircrafts on the Indian side. And he was not bluffing.
They knew where each one of our Air Force planes were.
So there are two things, very important things. One is the visibility, and the other part is what we call electronic warfare. That only comes because you have advanced electronic warfare and you've been training with the Air Force, which is at the cutting edge. So what I was saying is that there are certain capabilities which are called non-kinetic capabilities, which are not kinetic.
What does kinetic mean?
Kinetic is when you impact, when you fire a missile, when you fire a gun, that is kinetic. A non-kinetic capability is like space capability, like what is called electronic warfare, that you jam the equipment of the other side. That is a non-kinetic capability, and theirs is very good because even in Balakot that happened in 2019, they showed a very good control of their electronic warfare. So all these lessons should have been learned on the Indian side. And actually, I don't blame the military leadership of India, because most of the people who are working in this area, they know that a lot of political interference is there in operational matters. In matters of war, when you don't understand a subject, but you start, curating the whole thing, then there can be problems.
Now, it's in this context that I would like to, for a moment, just only for a moment, shift the attention from the military factors to the political factors. After that opening night, the Indian Air Force has claimed that they had great successes over the next couple of days. However, on the diplomatic front, we seem to have completely failed, because the Pakistanis and the Chinese got together literally the day after Pahalgam and produced a statement which was then unanimously released by the United Nations Security Council, in which they condemned terrorism, they deplored what had happened at Pahalgam. They said that anyone who is supporting or financing or arming or sponsoring any of these kinds of activities has to be condemned. But with Pakistan and China voting for it, they didn't name Pakistan. And since then, nobody has named Pakistan. Nobody, except for Taliban Afghanistan, who have their own problem with Pakistan, and genocidal Israel. This is a complete failure of diplomacy. Now, in the light of this, given that Mr. Modi had announced that Sindoor, the Operation Sindoor, would be open-ended, why do you think they're being so coy about the Red Fort blast a few days ago?
See, what has happened is that after Operation Sindoor, certain red lines were given publicly by the Prime Minister. The first thing he said is that Operation Sindoor is on pause. The second thing that he said, which is most important, publicly he said that any act of terror will be taken as an act of war. So, in my assessment, if they had said that this Delhi thing is a blast, the Pakistanis are behind that, that means then the people of India would have asked them, along with the opposition parties, that now this is an act of war, so you take action. So the point is that Operation Sindoor, as you rightly pointed out, military dimension is one. The other big thing that has happened is, which people don't seem to realize, that the international profile of Pakistan has shot up substantially, and there is a reason for that. So that is the reason, in my assessment, that needs to be analyzed very, very carefully. And if you want me, I can explain that.
I'd like you to explain it at a slightly later stage.
Okay.
Because now I want to bring in a third dimension.
Sure.
That with the national security strategy of the United States being announced by the Trump administration, I get the feeling that it is no longer chin pack, but chin pack us, that is China, Pakistan, and the United States, who in a sense are together as the entity that is going to oppose any military action by us. And why do I say this? Not only because of what is written in the National Security Strategy, which you will be explaining to us, but also because Mr. Trump seems to be particularly annoyed with India for not accepting that it was he who mediated the ceasefire. And that is the basic reason why the Pakistan profile has been raised in the US State Department at the same time as the Indian profile has been downgraded. So talk to us about Chin Pak Us, that is China, Pakistan, US, in the light of the national security strategy of the Trump administration.
Since 1971 war, which was done by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and we created a new nation, Bangladesh, the assessment of the world was that the conventional war fighting capabilities of India are superior to the Pakistan military. So in my assessment, after Operation Sindoor, that assessment was dashed. And this is the reason that on the 18th of June, Field Marshal Asim Munir, he had already elevated himself from general to Field Marshal, 5-star. He was invited for lunch at the White House by President Trump.
And if I may intervene, there was Mr. Trump has publicly stated that his favorite field marshal is Field Marshal Munir.
See, it's because of this Operation Sindoor and the outcome as the world understood, that's important. See, what we understand is for own domestic consumption. But the way the world saw it, because of that, what happened is that today Pakistan has got a strategic role from Americans. And the strategic role is...
That is described in the National Security Strategy, and it derives from that.
No. See, National Security Strategy, they won't write everything. The key thing, insofar as 3 countries are concerned, it is very simple in the National Security Strategy that China has not been identified as a military threat. It has been identified as a big economic threat, which I think is a very sensible thing to do.
To a threat to the US.
America.
Yeah.
Which is a very sensible, but this is a question for a further deliberation. But this is the point that has been put in the National Security Strategy as far as China is concerned, which is a big thing. So that is released by the White House once a year. So they have described China as an economic challenge. Sorry, not a threat, economic challenge. That's the right word.
Yes, also, because I've heard you on the subject, so I'm asking you to repeat it. Pakistan's military profile increases because they've also identified Iran as a major military threat.
Yes.
And therefore Pakistan matters more to them militarily under the NSS than does India.
See, first of all, as far as Iran is concerned, in the whole national security strategy, I'm not talking of the Western Hemisphere, that's something entirely different.
Yeah.
I'm talking of that in our region, or in fact the rest of the world, only one country has been identified as an outright enemy, and that is Iran. And Iran has a contiguous border with Pakistan. Pakistanis and Iranians understand each other. They are Muslim nations. And Pakistan understands Middle East. Now the big problem today of President Trump is that he can do very little against Israel because of the Israel lobby in America. In fact, many commentators are rightly saying, and I agree with them, that it appears that Netanyahu seems to be running the foreign policy of America insofar as Middle East is concerned. Now here, so the way out for him is to keep an eye on what is going on, and interestingly what they have done is 3 regions which we saw as distinct regions, which is Middle East, we also call that West Asia, West Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia, they have become one. A huge chunk in the Eurasia landmass. And why I'm saying that is that in the month of January, the new ambassador, American ambassador, Sergio Gore, is coming to Delhi. And this is the first time that I can remember that an American ambassador in India has been given an additional assignment as a special envoy for South Asia and Central Asian republics. So it is because of this, because the key advisor on what is happening in this region has to be Pakistan. And there, Asim Munir's profile has gone up. Now, Trump can't be speaking with Asim Munir every day how much he may like him. So the person who will be speaking with him regularly is Sergio Gore. In fact, I have argued in one of my shows, I have argued that he has very little to do in India, because in India and the national security strategy vindicates that the role is only of doing commercial deals. And the commercial deal, which is a very unfortunate thing, instead of waiting and seeing what the Trump administration foreign policy will be, within weeks, we had, on 20th of January, he got inaugurated as the president. And on 13th of February, Prime Minister Modi was there in the White House signing the joint statement. And in the joint statement, what we have signed is, without their asking, we have offered them Mission 500. Now, what that means is the bilateral trade today between the two countries is around 100 and some $39-40 billion. We have committed that in the next 3 years, by 2030, we will take it to, in the next 5 years, by 2030, we'll take it to $500 billion. In other words, energy, key things, energy, defense, green technology, then big technology, which is artificial, and everything will come from America. So, in my assessment, Sergio Gore's main job will be to ensure that the Mission 500 is on track. As far as strategic role is concerned, he'll be looking at Central Asia, he'll be looking at Middle East. They have an envoy there, Steve Witkoff. But then if you have a man sitting right here in Delhi, it helps. So, Trump,
you said that under this, with Iran as the main threat, Pakistan and its relationship with the Muslim countries to the west of Pakistan becomes crucial to US strategy.
That's one part. The second part is, I'm also saying Central Asian Republic.
Yeah.
Now, what has happened in the Central Asian Republic, I won't go into details, but just to give a sense to the viewers what it is about, Central Asian republics, Kazakhstan is the biggest there. And Kazakhstan has a lot of minerals. So now what the Americans are trying to do is, they are doing now trade. They want a trade with Kazakhstan, and all the minerals and the stuff that they want, the trade, that will happen from Kazakhstan through the Caspian Sea, coming to Azerbaijan, which has very good relations with Pakistan. From Azerbaijan, it goes to Turkey, another country with good relations with Pakistan, and then it goes on to Europe.